afternoon, everyone. This is RAND. Welcome to the Global Guided Meditation Call for Wednesday, March 27, 2024, a little after 3:15 p.m. Eastern. We'll be having a Time for Change call tonight around 9 p.m. We're going to address a lot of things that have surfaced out there. Some people are trying to figure out what's it about. How many of us understand truly the divine perfection of life? Where we all actually feel, see, and understand this divine perfection of life. We become more interesting people as we stop wasting our energy trying to negate others, ourselves, or continuously be upset with the way life is. In a mind that is free from all judgments of ourselves and others, we naturally appreciate it all. We can see that the glass is half empty and half full at the same time. We can feel this infinite empty universe all around us, and also sense how the sun is always rising somewhere on this planet, radiating its brilliant light. You kind of picture living, and this is the spiritual evolution of this civilization. That's what this is about. It's not about the conflict and all the other upheavals and everything, because if you're in the ego mind, that can be very disruptive for one. But living in an enlightened mindset, which people are choosing to do, step by step, is like floating in a sea of orgasm. Waves of deep cosmic opening to joy, happiness, appreciation, ecstasy can actually waft through our body at any time. When the mind is not occupied with judgments, we have more energy to make more love, explore our spiritual nature, taste the freedom that exists at the core of our being. When we can live daily in this enlightened mindset, everything inside us changes. All the previous pain we've been carrying seem to have mysteriously disappeared. We can naturally and fully relax into our divine, balanced nature. Now, one of the most interesting aspects of all is that this judgment-free, enlightened mind is our most natural state of being. It is already inside us. It's not something that we go pick up or learn or get. It's already inside us and exists at the core of who we are, at the seed of our consciousness itself. We can only experience it directly, however, when we have respect, reverence for the perfect balance that exists in everything. When we acknowledge, because we will eventually, we acknowledge the divine balance within every situation, person, accident, belief, memory, and atom throughout this universe. We can open up to it. The more acceptance we have that there's always good in the bad and bad in the good, something deeper inside us lets go, and we can finally relax into our deepest spiritual experience of this life. When the mind calls off the search for defining and redefining what's good and bad, we have an infinite reservoir of creative energy to surrender fully to our soul. This enlightened life is not just about cultivating a deeper relationship with our mind. It's about getting beyond the mind. We will eventually master our mind. When we master our mind, we no longer live in fear. When the mind falls from its altar, we rise to the summit. And as we learn how to drop into a perpetual state of surrender, allowing the greater intelligence of this universe to run the entire show, we see how every precious moment in this life has this bigger universal force behind it all. In seeing this, the mind totally gives up. And we realize that we have become the perfection that exists within everything. With enough awareness, we can totally stop the judgmental mind habit and wake up from the addiction. Then we'll know what real freedom is like. And nothing else will satisfy more than this freedom. This true freedom is free from all forms of pain. It is the greatest experience of this life. This means the mind can slip back into clinging to delusion and desire, and you don't. The mind might crave, whine, yearn to be free, yet you know that you are the one behind it, who is actually already free. You remain the watcher, deeply detached, liberated from the mind's antics. It's the greatest, deep, eternal loving of all, when you realize that you are not your mind. The more we practice welcoming judgments, the easier it becomes to see the mind on how to be free from it. And when we can always see the good, the bad, and the balanced meeting of the two, then the struggle of this life doesn't matter so much anymore. The mind soon gets trained to only see balance and perfection. It automatically observes how the good is in the bad and the bad is in the good. And how these two worlds always collide, and there is nothing left but freedom. There's just the pure observer watching and witnessing it all. Rely on the essence of your pure wisdom mind, not on judgmental perceptions. Rely on the spirit and meaning of the teachings, not on the words. Buddhist teaching. The enlightened, judgment-free mind is always available to any of us and shows up when we release the need to be right and instead create more room to be happy. Happiness through inner peace becomes the goal for all of us. Instead of striving and focusing on surviving this life, with inner peace as the priority, the dualistic mind soon becomes free from attachment, desire, resistance, and contraction. We surrender to the heart and can actually feel deeply okay with whatever manifests and does not manifest in our lives. This is an enlightened mindset, and it is not hard to achieve. It just takes the most deeply rooted devotion to ourselves. And we must choose to be willing to know ourselves intimately, not superficially, intimately, deeply, and never stray from exploring further about who and what we are. This exploration leads to a profound honoring of the sacredness in all things in this life. We start honoring that this balanced state of perfection is everywhere. And we have nothing to complain about or try to change in ourselves anymore. Instead, we start worshiping everything around us. We see everything and everyone as the divine in physical form. We bow down to this very ordinary life and call it God. We look into a blade of grass and understand how it's just as sacred and important as our entire galaxy. To remain in a judgment-free, enlightened mind every day, we must deeply choose to look at what cannot be looked at and reveal in being totally real with our pain. We wish to remain liberated. We must be willing to see where we are still in prison fighting to get out. As long as we are fighting, we are still not truly free. So we must choose to always be aware of the slippery mind. We must choose to never allow the sneaky judgments to take over us again. We must choose to be 100% creatively devoted to continuously being awake, aware, and ready to step beyond a seemingly safe, judgmental world. It's choosing to become the black sheep of this world if we are to be truly free. We cannot ever agree with anyone who says that some things are just 100% bad and nothing good at all will ever come out of it. That's crap. We must choose to stop all movement whenever any judgment arises. And watch our thoughts, beliefs vigilantly. Be totally aware whenever the mind starts believing in some final truth. We must choose to do everything we can so that the ego cannot harden and cling to any opinions, form, or thoughts containing right and wrong beliefs. This path takes some serious devotion. Some people will tell you how this universe is not already in a perfect design. They might try to make you a believer that you should only get what you want and nothing else. This seems like the ideal situation to be in, right? Well, the spiritual awakening process is always much deeper and more complex than it appears to be. If this universe was set up this way, great mystery would be gone. If we should never know what a block, problem, pain, or failure was like, we would be without direction, feel perpetually numb, and have no longing to dig deep inside our souls to find our life mission, creativity, and spiritual path. See, we're all on the same spiritual path, but each of us will discover that we truly are. And none of us are off the path. So this universe is already set up finitely in the most intelligent manner. It's designed so that we can get a good, solid taste of suffering, anxiety, or inner turmoil and use it to awaken with. Whenever we go unconscious and forget the divine, all-intelligent universe is everywhere around us, we instantly suffer. Whenever we allow the mind to form any judgment and register only one side of reality, our problems begin. This universe loves us so much that it doesn't care have us live in any lie. So it wakes us up with a little stress, anxiety, or emotional pain. Remember, you're the universe and the universe is you. If we don't stop and drop our judgments, another level of suffering will soon manifest. This pain is our most perfect and most loving teacher, and by welcoming it fully, we are led back to our real state of love, enlightenment, and freedom. You know, all these, I guess you could call them separations. People say, well, how many things are we? Well, what we are is, there's a soul, right? And in the soul, in the center of the soul is the God. That's why we always talk about going really deep within you. We say within because it's not going out there, right? Your starting point is within you. And this is how we awaken ourselves. Now, we live in a world that ignores the fact, really does when you think about it, that a supreme, divine, all-loving intelligence lives within us. It ignores the fact. Society ignores the fact. We've been programmed to believe we are spiritually disconnected and must fix our broken selves to feel whole and reconnected again. Isn't that true? All you got to do is look around. Not judging, but you're just watching things. You can see it everywhere. We don't realize it. Yet we are just used to feeling spiritually numb, as we have been plagued every day of our lives by an overly materialistic society which is constantly seducing us with its glorified multi-billion-dollar hypnotic media programming. We have contracted a deep case of spiritual amnesia and have forgotten how to relax into our spiritual essence and find our own intimate connection with the divine. This is an everyday ignorance of our spiritual nature, and it is the greatest lie mankind is living today. It is the cause of every moment of suffering each human being is currently enduring in this very moment, in this very now, on this very planet. One may think that this spiritual drought was created by mankind, right? And is not part of the grand divine design. We know that nothing is by coincidence or without purpose in this universe. This blind ignorance is within us all on purpose, so that we move more passionately towards a state of awakening. These intense levels of disconnection only drive us deeper inside ourselves to find our own soul. To this lifetime, this one we have right now, is meant to be a deeply enlightening experience for all of us. Is there anything more important than knowing how to access our own direct personal connection to an all-powerful, deep, eternally loving source of high intelligent, creative energy that has the magical power to manifest anything that our heart desires? There's nothing more vital to finding happiness in this life than knowing one's spiritual connection, and nothing more exciting than a proven way to access it, which works every time. It doesn't matter how stuck you feel, really, about whatever it is. You know, there's a slew of things on this planet. Financial situation, relationships, health, sex life, future. There's always a way to reach freedom. And these, questions to ask ourselves, which you repeat. And to sit in silence and to answer these questions. Like what is stopping you from always being in communion with God? You, inside that body. What is it? What stops us from that? Most of us are stopped by it. It's a no-brainer. I mean, we pretty much are stopped. All kinds of external distractions. Ask yourself, what's your relationship? What exactly is your relationship with God like? Do you even have one? And what does it feel like when you are actually having a truly intimate connection with God? What does it feel like for you? How often do you recognize and connect with the divine aspects of yourself? And how is your life different when living with this connection versus without it? These are questions that it's a good practice to state them to yourself on occasion. What does it do? Well, it focuses you more on who and what you are, rather than out there. And the longer that you sit with these questions, feel into your answers, the deeper you'll dig into your soul and eventually discover your spiritual connection. And it is never too late to connect. Even if you've blown by 75 years of your life on gluttonous, frivolous, mindless activities, feeling perpetually lost in a superficial life. The God source is still here. The door to the divine is always open. And God is waiting for you to come in. When you take one step towards God, He'll take at least 10 steps towards you. It, I should say. Make time to redefine your relationship with the divine. I guarantee you that your precious time will not be wasted. Maybe it's because a lot of us are bored with that stuff, right? Or we believe it's religion, and it isn't. It isn't anywhere near religion. It's all about discovering who and what we are. So, we can shake this amnesia off once and for all and begin creating the lives we want on a God planet paradise. Whenever you choose to explore your own personal connection with the divine, always look into your heart rather than your head. The head is so full of ideas about what God is and not and is not, the head misses the real experience, feeling, and quality of godliness. When the mind is quiet, still, and single-pointed into the now, we can instantly find that deeply alive spiritual feeling inside. The God source already exists within the heart and at the core of our soul. As we relax into this place, a timeless, deeply eternal, loving, conscious energy sneaks into us and relaxes every cell and fiber of our very being. The subject of God, God itself, is the most mysterious thing in this universe. Perhaps because it is the universe. All of us. God exists in everyone and everything, including those people that we think are deeply disconnected. Haven't you wondered, how can such an amazing presence be so spatially close to us and still be so difficult to feel and see? It's like trying to look into your own eyes without a mirror. We look out at life, through these new tiny black holes in our eyes, taking them for granted and not realizing they exist at all because they are so close to us. When something is too close to us, we are often unaware how precious it is. You ever been that way? You know, having something or being close to something, and someone draws your attention and says, wow, that is spectacular, or that is phenomenal. And you'll say, what? That? Oh, this? Oh, well, been around a long time. Kind of like, well. But when something is too close to us, we're often unaware how precious it is. The same applies to noticing God. We are unaware of God until we take a step back, look deeper into our own reflection, the great mirror that is all around us. And a very good quote from Ramana Maharishi. Realization of the self is realization of God. It is not an experience of God. Rather, it is an understanding that one is God. All of us will eventually discover through the years of exploration and inquiry that it's actually much easier to connect with God by relating to it as isness rather than an it. God is more like a mysterious infinite energy than some fixed stagnant entity. The great isness is instantly found when we stop and feel into this eternal quality, which feels like we are always and forever here now. The isness is our infinite nature. This can only be experienced when we are living fully in the now, exploring this life with a relaxed, trusting connection. And this divine isness is the most accepting, healing, forgiving energy one could possibly imagine. The isness is the source of deep eternal love, which, when even momentarily welcomed, we instantly feel the most profound ecstatic joy inside our heart. The knowing that we are eternal spiritual beings moves through us throughout the day, like a healing river of eternal liquid love. The very second we surrender our heart to just the idea of an externally loving isness, we immediately find real peace, a sense of bliss, the feeling of real satisfaction that cannot be compared. Knowing this isness is our basic nature. We start radiating like the sun and start shining our own spiritual essence into everyone in our life. The only reason we may not feel, believe, and know that God is right here within the very center of our body, soul, and heart right now is because of one thing blocking the way. Our overly busy, demanding, controlling, and desiring mind. As long as the mind is wanting something, willing something, thinking it is lacking something, trying to reach a better place other than the great isness that's here now, we will easily miss our spiritual path. We will find ourselves living in thoughts about God instead of experiencing the real divinity. If we get too lost in the head, we might end up walking into some highly intellectual, materialistic, and spiritually dry future. God's source is infinitely complex, yet deeply simple. God is actually quite easy to experience. The trick is learning what it takes to fully be here now. Why would that be? Why is that so important? Well, we all know. None of us, this isn't our first rodeo. We all have the understanding that we live outside of ourselves. This is why we miss so much. And we begin to realize that the mind, the illusion, the mind, to feel the divine isness, we must first begin feeling whatever is up for us in this moment. We must choose to explore how we can let go of the mind and open ourselves up emotionally, feeling everything that is here now. And when we call off the mental search looking for God out there and simply feel into the core essence of our being, we find that we have been the ones who were hiding and protecting ourselves from the divine. God has always been here, is always here, radiating within every atom in existence. As we drop deeper beneath the thinking mind and through our blocked emotions, we discover the greatest source of peace, silence and stillness. This is where God abides, in the now. In Psalm 46:10, there's a quote, and it was misinterpreted for many centuries. Be still and know that I am God. That's you. That's you, every one of us. Be still and know that I am God. You're God. Whenever you become still, in the now, focused on the breath, you are in God, God is in you. Perhaps the most radical truth that one can ever discover about this human existence is this. We humans are either existing in some form of suffering or living in some form of bliss. We are either in one or the other. We are either living up in our head or we are in the heart of God. Once we quiet the mind and open our heart together, we can live a balanced life in both realms of head and heart. Doing this, we then start merging with the infinite mind of God. Now, when we can remain in this balance 24 hours a day, we will master this lifetime. Then every thought we think manifests into forming our living reality. And by living in constant emotional connection with the divine from our core, we become a living bliss, breathing manifestation machine, perpetually creating every beautiful idea we feel and focus upon. Now, we all know that there's not many things guaranteed in this life. Yet one thing that is 100% guaranteed is this. At some point, you are going to return to God. It will either happen when your body is still alive or when your body stops breathing. Eventually, all of us will feel intimately connected with God again. So, there's no reason to worry about when or how. It's an inevitability. All roads lead back to God. And the path ahead and the path behind you both lead back to God. God is unavoidable because our past and future are just mental concepts which only exist within this living present moment. The mind alone is always blind to the divine. It is only with a quiet, surrendered mind that we may access an open, receptive heart which can see God in everyone and everything. The mind just doesn't care to realize how ignorant it actually is. It doesn't care to see how powerless, unfulfilled, and trapped it is, as this would cause a huge embarrassment to the ego. When any of us wake up, right, spiritually wake up, the mind realizes its petty search in the outer world to find everlasting satisfaction is spiritually fruitless. Only when the mind surrenders to God do we discover what absolute bliss feels like. You're surrendering to you, the God within you. Otherwise, the mind will continue to persist in its addictive habits of seeking fulfillment in the outer world. It will ignore seeing how true bliss is available here now, as it needs to continue its addictive search for years, decades, and lifetimes. The mind is always trying to get its desires met by people, food, substances, money, ideas, and is in the habit of constantly yearning for something. Yet, as we all know, once the mind gets what it wants, it's happy for a short while. We've all experienced that more than once. Then it's back on the hamster wheel again, searching for fulfillment again. The mind is deeply unaware that it can never, ever be truly satisfied. Unaware. You imagine that. An illusion that is unaware that it will ever be deeply satisfied. Oh, when it thinks it will. It's good to know that whatever happens in this life, there are no real mistakes. God is an infinitely positive, creative energy, and this fierce force does not know what a mistake is. Now, on this planet and society, which is the human psyche, every mistake that we perceive to be real or true is simply the mind forming another judgment. That there is universal right or wrong book. There is only deeper shades of truth in which each higher layer only reveals a lighter perspective on our enlightening mission. We are here to learn. The greatest goal of this life for all of us is to find that God source inside us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This is the only thing which truly satisfies. Everything else falls vastly short. Feeling into our own personal intimate connection with the divine is the most important thing we can do with our time each day. Everything else we do is going to be the ego seeking some form of gratification, which of course will not last. And it is really good to be aware of the ego, as it is easily caught in complaints, negativity, creating problems that weren't there before. Your only job is to move beyond your ego, transcend your small self, and step into the big self that you, all of us, truly are. And when we finally surrender to God at the center of our souls, we know without a doubt that we have just discovered the most amazing experience of coming home. We all, this perspective is, we all live in cages of some kind. Where'd those cages come from? We created them. Do we know that? No. No, we don't know that. We don't know we created those cages. And see this? When we feel disconnected from our spiritual nature, anything or anyone can feel like a prison. I know I've talked with people that feel that their bodies, right, their physical bodies, or financial situation, emotions, spouse, or even their own limiting personality has made them feel stuck and trapped, like they're in a prison. Have you ever done it? Have you ever talked to anybody that shares that with you? Well, the good news is that whatever cage that you are locked up in actually has a key. That key is sitting there, resting inside the lock, ready to be turned when you have had enough suffering and are ready to set your spirit free once again. Turning your key simply manifests on its own after understanding a few basic principles about what real freedom is and what it is not. Our natural state of being, isn't this interesting? See, we've got society, we all know that. And for most people, society dictates to how they live their lives. Yes, there are those that say, you know what, I love being a black sheep. Okay? I beat to the tune, to my tune, not to everybody else's. Turning your key simply manifests on its own after understanding a few basic principles about what real freedom is and what it is not. Being totally wild and absolutely free is not some radical, rebellious, or disrespectful approach to this life. It is also not about conquering some controlling authority out there who is dictating the rules of how we should and shouldn't live our lives. We do not need permission from anybody else to manifest the life we want to create. Real liberation in life is not a pushing away to find freedom from someone or from something. It is more peaceful than that. It's about finding that which is already free inside us to be, do, believe whatever we want. Real freedom is about recognizing how we already are the final word and the ultimate authority of our life. It is knowing that what you honestly believe is what becomes real. And this is the end truth and final reality. There's well over 8 billion of us, right? Over 8 billion different realities on this planet in this very now. And you are one of them. The moment we choose to believe, we can be a wild, fully self-expressed, fun-free being, is the exact same moment we realize that we already are the absolute final authority of our lives. Now join the meditation, and I'll return to close this out. Take an easy and slow breath in through the nose. Easy and slow breath out from the mouth. Remain still. This universe wants you to explore it all. So don't hold back. Let yourself go. The adventure you'll have is well worth the ride. You'll have a much better time when you remember deep down you're a magical God being. And yes, you can do anything that you devote your mind to accomplish. You can see exactly how your future is going to unfold. What a beautiful, glorious, wondrous being you truly are. Take this with you for the rest of the day, into the evening and night, and following morning. We'll return here tonight around 9 p.m. Eastern for our Time for Change call, and tomorrow, Thursday, 3:15 p.m. to continue our global guided meditation call. Gentle, kind, generous, and humble with yourself at all times. Be in the highest of the highest high, deepest of the deepest deepest, and purest of the purest purest. Eternal gratitude at all time, no matter what's happening within you, outside of you.